Hello everyone, I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. I am here on Princess Island Park in Calgary, Canada, and I don't do these types of videos very often, but today I'd like to talk to you about the price of Bitcoin. Whew, okay, where to start? This year has been an absolute whirlwind, and it's not even done yet. We started the year with Bitcoin just peaking over the 1,000 US dollar mark, and it is now the very end of November, and we're looking at highs of around 9,500 US dollars at the moment. There's been a lot of ups and downs in between. We had an earlier peak of 2,900 around the beginning of summer. We had some peaks in August around $4,000, and then it's just been up and down since then all through the fall. So let's take a closer look at kind of where we've been over the course of the year. Bitcoin really took off this year, and I believe that's due in part to the market just kind of catching up to the effects of the halving that happened last year. Now, if you're unfamiliar, the halving is when the supply of newly created Bitcoin gets cut in half. This happens every 4 years. So it happened in 2012, it happened last year in 2016, and it will happen again in 2020, 2024, and every 4 years thereafter. So we did see a run-up prior to the halving in 2016, after which it kind of leveled off and then gradually built up for the end of the year. This year, we've just seen the price explode. Now again, I think some of this can be attributed to that diminished supply of new coins. However, there's been a lot of excitement in the industry and a lot of potential negatives that have kind of failed to keep the price down. We had excitement surrounding potential ETFs smacked down when they were denied. We've had massive adoption. Coinbase is adding hundreds of thousands of users regularly. Now, some of these dips that have happened through the year have been very interesting, just in the fact that they've been so short-lived. We had a couple kind of spooks, one of them being Bitcoin's first fork, which was Bitcoin Cash, and it happened August 1st. Now, the spook came prior to the fork, so there was some worry before it hit, but then after the fork actually happened, and there were, for the first time ever, 2 different Bitcoins, the price actually went up. A few weeks later, we had highs of around 4,000, which were then smacked down due to a pair of stories, one of which was JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon calling Bitcoin a fraud, the other of which was China banning Bitcoin exchanges. But even that could not keep the price down, and it continued on its upward trajectory through the rest of the fall. Even now, with the price where it is, around 9,500 on a high today, there's a lot of people that all year have been shouting, it's a bubble, it's gonna pop. And I mean, yeah, that does happen when you have these excessive run-ups. But where's the top going to be, and what kind of a drawback are we going to see when that top finally hits? Well, let's take a look at what a few people think. Now, let's get a couple of the pessimistic people out of the way first and see what they think. I mean, let's take a look at Jamie Dimon. He thinks that Bitcoin is worthless, that it's a fraud. But he has said that he still thinks that it could even go to tens of thousands, if not 100,000 or more dollars before it finally disappears. So in his pessimistic view, there's still this optimistic outlook of what the price could potentially go to. You have people like Jim Rickards, who is a sound money and I guess gold advocate or precious metals advocate, and he does not like Bitcoin. He thinks it's trash, and he thinks it's going to go away eventually too. You know, and you have pundits across the industry, some of them thinking that it's very valuable, some of them thinking that Bitcoin is going to disappear, but also making concessions that it could go much higher, which is a different story than we were hearing just a couple years ago, where everybody was saying, oh, well, it's on a downward trend, it's going to disappear, it's going away. So even the pessimistic people have adjusted their outlook to allow for price appreciation before it goes away. Now, this is putting aside people like those that are big into Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum or some of the other cryptocurrencies that think they will replace Bitcoin. Of course, those people do believe that Bitcoin will fail, disappear, and be replaced by better technology. And I mean, there's a degree of bias to anybody's opinion on Bitcoin price, but you know, theirs can be taken into account as well. Now, you've got, on the positive side of things, you've got lots of people that are weighing in. Tim Draper was pretty on the money when he said that 2017 would round out the year around 10 grand. Well, we're just about there. And then on the far end of the spectrum, we've got people like Max Kaiser that are calling for $100,000 Bitcoin relatively quickly. So where do I think it's going to go, and what people and charts do I think are interesting? Well, I did make a video earlier this year, and my projections for the year were somewhere in the realm of around 13,000 US dollars by year end. And even when I made the video, I was second guessing myself, and really the numbers just, they seemed a little far-fetched to my head, but now we're pretty close to that realm. We may not hit it before the end of the year, but we're right there. Now, I've been kind of looking at two charts in particular that I find very, very interesting, potentially worrisome for new investors that get in the coming months, but exciting nonetheless. So let's take a look at these two charts. Now, the first chart I want to look at here is one posted by a guy on Twitter by the name of Parabolic Trav, and this is what his tweet reads. I've been charting parabolic trends for a long time. I use curved lines and not linear lines because linear lines are for non-exponential trends. When I draw the trajectory of Bitcoin intersecting all tops and bottoms, this is what I get. And his chart shows an uptrend leading to a high of around $110,000, dipping back down and then continuing on its way up once again. Now, he goes on further, he says, but it's frankly so absurd I don't know what to think. All I know is that we're into the big move where almost no correction occurs and it'll end in a parabolic blow-off top. I've added how that may look afterwards for guidance, but I really have no idea where to draw the top trend channel, but expect blow-off somewhere in between. Now, in this chart, the time horizon on this top that he's expecting is somewhere in early 2018, so like the first couple months. And when he goes on further into his tweets, he then says that he doesn't exactly expect us to get that high, but perhaps into the $20,000 to $30,000 range. Now, what do I think of this? I don't know, it seems almost unbelievable, but look at the year that we've had. A rise from here to the $20,000 or $30,000 range is doubling or tripling of price, and we've seen a 10x return thus far this year, pretty much. So is it outside the realm of possibility? Not entirely. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't even know what to think anymore. It's exciting, but it's also potentially scary for anybody that jumps in at the wrong point. Sure, we could go up exponentially, but it just depends on when you jump in, because if you jump in at the wrong time, you may go through another 2014, 2015, where you're sitting on a bag and you can't get rid of it because you've lost so much money on paper, and you don't want to realize those losses. Even when I first started into Bitcoin, it was early 2014, and anything that I did grab then, I watched go down in value for a solid year to a year and a half before I was even realizing any profits on it. So it can be scary for new people. So my pieces of advice are: 1, only invest money that you can afford to lose. 2, try to understand any asset, anything that you invest in. 3, try not to buy in with debt that you can't afford. So, you know, you don't want to be maxing out a credit card or taking out a mortgage on your house in order to buy this stuff, because remember, it is still speculation. It is still volatile as hell, and just as fast as it goes up, it can come back down. That being said, holy crap, what a year. It's been incredibly exciting, and I think in the long term that Bitcoin is here to stay, and that, you know, it's inevitable that at some point it will continue to go up from here. I think the thing that's confusing me the most right now is last time around when Bitcoin dipped down, it did go parabolic in 2013. It went up to around $1,200 US very quickly, and then it got chopped down relatively fast and then spent a while recovering. Now, the thing that makes me wonder if this time is a little bit different, and I know that it's bad to always say this time is different because quite often that's not the case, but the thing that has me scratching my head this time is the idea of institutional investors and easy access, because that was not the case in 2013. You could not easily get your hands on Bitcoin. It was a pain in the ass to obtain, and any banks or institutional investors were not even close to considering putting money into this. Now you have futures markets launching on the stock exchange from CME Group in a couple weeks here, and that opens the door to ETFs. You're starting to see things like Bitcoin mutual funds pop up. There was one that just showed up in France, and you've got things happening all over the globe where banks and financial institutions are getting interested. And that may contribute to a type of parabolic move like this guy is talking about. Now let's take a look at one last chart that I found very interesting, mostly because somebody made it in 2014. Here it is. In this chart, what you're looking at is an exponential rise in price and a trajectory of some price points for Bitcoin. Now keep in mind, again, this was made in 2014, and you can see that it follows the line in general, but it can go up quite a bit above and quite a bit below. Now let's just look at some of the projections. So the projection was to hit $1,000 per Bitcoin in 2015. Now we know that wasn't the case because we dropped below the trend line, and we were sitting in around the 200 to 500 range for most of the year. But take a look at their prediction for the end of November 2017. $10,000 right around now. That is a hell of a prediction. And then look forward. 2021, $100,000 per Bitcoin. Now, if we follow this, and we follow this other guy's predictions a little bit, I could see us blowing off the top early on, a little too early for this trend line, maybe going up into the $10s and $20s and $30,000 range, maybe even 100 like the guy predicted in his chart, but then dropping down below for an extended period of time to taper off and eventually return to that level maybe a couple years later. But that being said, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm just along for the ride, and I hope you guys are having a blast watching this. I guess only time will tell, so strap me in. I'm ready for the roller coaster ride of a lifetime. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, drop a tip if you're able to, and share this video. Also, if you'd like to help the show in another way, please hit my affiliate links down below to grab yourself a hardware wallet to protect your very valuable crypto. I will see you guys next time on the BTC Sessions.